All right, is it on? Let's see. Okay, let me make sure. Yep, I'm sure it's on. Okay. You guys knew this was going to come at some point. Um, as you all know, Clockwork Orange is my favorite film. Let me hold on one second. Let me go to my channel. Make sure it's. Yep, I'm live. Okay. I'm going to change the thumbnail as well. It's currently just stupid ass pictures of me smiling. But anyways, not in the best mood today. That's okay. But just because I ordered some charger cables and they didn't arrive, even though it was Amazon Prime, and said to deliver, but it did not deliver. So I'm a little bit mad about that. Now I'm just stuck to the stupid short little cable. But anyways, I'm not really going to bring up that kind of stuff. Now, as you can see, there's Alex on Funko Pop of Alex. I have a poster, as you can see. Let's see. I have the soundtrack as well. I have a little poster on my. Well, I guess that's a calendar, you could say. I got a book in the DVD. All right, what's up, Ty? Thanks for adding me back on Reagan Music, and now reviewing my favorite Kubrick film. Yeah, it's my favorite Kubrick film as well. Not only my favorite Kubrick film, but my favorite film overall. It's good, man. But anyways, now I also have like 2 mugs that I got for Christmas to have a Clockwork Orange theme on them, and I won't show you the poster just because I don't know. You've already seen it before. I showed it before. But anyways, I'm going to try to talk about a Clockwork Orange. Now I'm just going to bring up some other Stanley Kubrick films. This Stanley Kubrick is definitely a genius when it comes to cinematography, props, effects, and all that stuff, because he never used any type of technology or anything like that in his films, and that's probably why his films age so well. I'm just going to turn the lighting on. All right. That's probably why Kubrick's films have aged as well as they did, because he never used any type of. I mean, in 2001: Space Odyssey, they weren't there at that point, but that's probably why his films have aged as well as they have, because you don't have like these shitty ass like computer graphics from the 80s or anything like that, or 70s, 60s, whatever era the movie is. Instead, it's like props, and they, as their props, they look real, as you can kind of tell. I guess you could say that all of it's real. It's not. It's all. None of it's computer generated or anything like that. So, so I would say a lot of people see 2001: A Space Odyssey as Kubrick's masterpiece. I definitely can see where people are going. It's the most experimental. It definitely has the best visuals out of any of his other films, and it's actually highly influential in the advancement of technology as well. And 2001: A Space Odyssey is probably my second favorite Kubrick film, and then probably The Shining, which is one of my favorite horror films, and probably Full Metal Jacket, then Doctor Strangelove. But my first is easily A Clockwork Orange, and I'm going to tell you why. So A Clockwork Orange came out, I think, right after 2001: A Space Odyssey, and so all right. Anyways, I'm going to go into it. Okay, so A Clockwork Orange, in my opinion, is the greatest film I've ever seen. Neon Genesis Evangelion. And when I first saw this film, I gotta admit, I wanted to like it. Actually, I'm going to tell you this. So the first time I watched, and when I was visiting Iowa, just visit my cousins, and Grandma said, "Hey, you want to watch that movie you rented together?" And I said, yeah, sure. It's rated R though. I'm not sure if I don't know. It can't be that bad." So so basically, when it came to that part, where that woman was being raped by Alex's rival gang, like I forgot what. Yeah, so Billy Boy and his droogs. Basically, my grandma was freaking out, going, oh, "This is a horrible movie! Oh my god!" And then my aunt came downstairs and told us to turn it off. And I just watched it on my own. The first time I watched it in full, I thought it was really, really weird. Because one thing, if you're going into this film, I mean, it is a crime film. It's a dystopian film. But it's not like a crime film, say like Pulp Fiction or Godfather or something like that. This film is very trippy. It's very weird. It's very, very dark. Even for crime films, it's extremely dark. And there's a lot of really kind of explicit scenes in this film. And it's very controversial, and it's a very obvious reason why it would be controversial in the first place. Although it's controversial for a reason. And this film actually did have an X rating when it was first released. And I guess you can say it's not too hard to see why. But anyways, so now basically, now here are some spoilers. If you haven't seen the film, I'm going to bring up some spoilers. And now, basically, Alex and his friends, which he calls droogs, he basically speaks in like a slang. This basically takes in a dystopian future in England. It does not tell what year this takes place in, but so Alex and his droogs, which he kind of calls basically droog is Polish for friend, because he basically has a slang called nodset, which is made up of like different languages like Russian, Polish, all these different types of languages. And it's like a slang him and his friends speak, which he calls droogs, because droogs is Polish for friend. And now, anyways, so basically him and his friends they basically kind of go to this bar that basically sells like this milk that has like drugs in it. They call it Moloko Plus, which Moloko is Russian for milk. And the place is called the Korova Milk Bar. Korova is Russian for cow, I believe. And basically they kind of get high on those drugs from the milk, and then they kind of go out what they call ultraviolence, which is basically the them going out, causing havoc, raping, and like and harming people basically. And the first person they go up against, they basically just kind of beat up like this old man who's drunk. He's kind of sitting over just singing, and they basically beat him up because he was singing badly. Then they go to this kind of like abandoned casino place, and a rival gang is attempting to rape this woman basically, and Alex and his friends basically beat up the gang. They did not do anything to the woman. Then they drive down to this guy's house, and basically Alex is at the door saying, "Oh, my friend's hurt. Please let us in." And they let him in, and then they basically beat the guy to the point where he can't walk, and then then Alex rapes his wife. And they go back to the milk bar, and there's this lady singing Beethoven, because Alex is a really, really big fan of Beethoven. In the novel, it's all classical music, but in the film, it's just Beethoven, specifically the Ninth Symphony. Now, anyways, so now basically one of his friends, Dim, he's kind of the one that's kind of a little odd, a little dumb. He's kind of the one that Alex kind of gives a really hard time throughout the movie and the novel as well. And Jim basically goes like, and then Alex basically slaps him on the leg with his cane. Yeah, it's basically kind of. Another thing I might mention is actually the costume design in this film is incredible as well. Like I really, really like I think that little eye thing is pretty cool. And this thing was a really big influence on fashion as well, and a bunch of other things, but I'll get to that later. Now, Dim quickly ends up kind of getting a big distaste for Alex. And so, oh wait, I might bring this up. So when Alex heads home, he claims that he's sick and that he doesn't want to go to school when his mother told him to. And so while he's at one point he gets up, and like his supervisor, I guess, like his what's his name? Mr. Deltoid. Yeah, Deltoid. Yeah. So Deltoid, he tells Alex that he knows that he's done like those crimes and stuff, and he tells him to stop. And Alex says, "Do I make myself clear? You need to stop this." And he goes like, "As an unmuddied lake, sir, as clear as an azure sky of deepest summer. You can rely on me, sir." Which basically is kind of his hint of lying. He lied, and and then at one point he goes out and he goes to this record store, which is actually one of my favorite scenes in the film, just because I really like the song that plays and the fact that it's the record store and there's a lot of colors and all that stuff. I like that scene. And he basically he finds these two girls. He has a threesome with them. But in the novel, they were two like toddlers, and he got them drunk and raped them, which is taken out. That's probably the most disturbing scene in the novel, and it's not in the. Otherwise, the most disturbing scene in the movie is when Alex raped the guy the writer's wife right in front of him. That was probably the most disturbing scene in the movie, which doesn't show him raping him, but it's assumed he does. But it's hinted that he does. Now, anyways, um, so basically, Pete, George, and Dim, they kind of they go over to this Alex's house to the place he lives, and they say George like says, "Hey, we were at the milk bar and you didn't turn up. Where were you?" And then Alex says, "Oh, I had a headache and I had a pain in the Gulliver and I tried to sleep." And then Dim kind of goes like, just kind of being smart ass, goes like, "Oh, you probably got such a big pain in the head because of all your giving orders and discipline and such. Perhaps you sure the pain is gone? You sure you'd not be happier back in bed?" And then Alex goes over and like kind of talks back to him. And then George goes like, "All right, no more picking on Dim, brother. That's part of the new way." And then Alex says, "New way? What's this about a new way? There's some very large talk behind my sleeping back and nowhere." And then George basically at this point, Alex kind of thinks that George is kind of trying to intervene and trying to become the leader of the Droogs instead of Alex. And Dim kind of repeats every word he says because Dim and George, as it's hinted, are pretty close. They're very good friends. So Alex kind of agrees to basically. So Alex goes over. They're walking down this kind of like path somewhere, and Alex is basically knows that George is kind of almost like trying to intervene, trying to take over Alex's spot as the leader, and Dim is clearly in support of George's idea. So basically, Alex basically takes his cane and basically bashes George, kind of kicks him into like this lake next to him, and then Dim tries to attack him, and Alex beats up Dim, and then Alex kind of raises his hand, try to lift Dim out of the water, but then he basically takes a knife and cuts his hand, and then Dim falls back into the water, and then they're at next thing you know, they're at like this bar, and Alex says like, "So this idea of yours for tonight, George, tell us all about it then." Then he said, "Not tonight, not this nutchy." And it's very obvious at this point, both George and Dim have a very, very big distaste for Alex at this point. So, anyways, and basically they tell Alex to go to that there's like this rich lady who has a bunch of cats. They want him to go over to this lady's house and rob her, I suppose. And so Alex agrees to, and he does the same thing with the help, my friend's in trouble, he's hurt. And then she goes like, I don't open the door to strangers after dark. And then he said, "Okay, madam, I'll just go find help somewhere else." And then he basically finds an open window into the house and sneaks in through there. And the lady's on the phone calling saying, "Well, this guy who just was at my door, sounded like the thing he said just sounded very, very much like what happened with the writer when his like." And so they basically have police. So she basically calls the police, and the police eventually arrive. But it's too late. Alex has already broken into her home, and they basically try to have a brawl. And also, another symbolism, there's a lot of kind of really big, warped, explicit images, and there are a lot in that lady's house. And it's actually kind of hinted that she might have a similar interest to Alex because she has pictures of pornography all over her walls, and she has like a Beethoven bust. And Alex's interests are violence, sex, and Beethoven, basically. And now, anyway, so Alex, there's a big statue of a dick, basically, over on the shelf. And that is kind of silly. That part I thought was really weird when I first watched it. But there's actually a lot of symbolism within that because that's the item Alex kills her with. And not only does that represent the fact that she's also using a Beethoven bus is that she hits him with, and the fact that he basically takes a big penis thing and smashes it into her head, killing her. The thing is that those kind of represented three interests, which is violence, sex, and Beethoven. If you think about it, that's kind of how I gather it. At least I haven't really seen anything that said that, but that's what I gather. Now, anyway, so Alex flees the house. He's kind of a little bit you could say paranoid, the fact that he just murdered someone. And anyway, so Dim basically Alex runs out and says, hey, wait, the police are coming, we got to go. And then Dim basically takes a big glass of milk and slaps it across Alex's face, smashing it. And then he basically then all three flee except Alex is just sitting on the ground, like crying out, like, I'm blind, I can't see, oh my God. And then next thing you know, Alex is put in custody, and he's gonna go to the police officers. I guess he's gonna be put in prison. That's what I'm gonna tell you. So anyways, so then Deltoid drops by and says like, oh, you did it, didn't you? And Deltoid spits in his face. But anyways, all right now. Anyways, let me see how many people are watching, man. All right, hold on, dude. I'll be right back to it. Just got to go see how many people are watching. Probably no one. Yep, 0 watching, dude. It's awesome. 0 people watching, dude. So glad. Never been so happy in my life. No one's watching. All right, now anyways. Now, okay. So Alex is put in prison. He's he very, very much so does not like it. He so yes, he very, very he hates the prison. He hates it. He it's also hinted that he was also raped in prison, because it kind of, it doesn't actually say or show it, I guess, but it's but basically there's this they kind of try to push religion on people in that prison, and I consider myself a Christian just because I kind of feel like the world had to be made by someone. That's kind of what I believe. And Stanley Kubrick was not religious. Yeah, he was an atheist, and that's fine if you don't. It doesn't really matter what you believe in. You can believe in whatever you want. But they try to push religion on people, and it actually is hinted that Alex is a Christian, just because he says when asked what religion he says C of E, which is the Church of England. Now, anyways, so basically the pastor there, which is actually one of my favorite characters, just because he's probably one of the more conscious, and he probably knows what they're doing to Alex is wrong. He has a very big liking for Alex because he feels like Alex is almost going to the way of religion because he's reading the Bible all the time. But what he doesn't know is that Alex is only reading the Bible because he likes the violence in the explicit kind of scenes in the Bible. He doesn't like the things where it's actually talking about, Christianity and all that stuff. And but Alex later finds out that they're doing some kind of treatment called the Ludovico treatment that will basically make you become a free citizen. They'll do a treatment on you. You'll become a decent person, and you'll be set free. And Alex says, like, I just want to be good. I just want for once in my life to have one act of goodness, which he's kind of just he doesn't care. He just wants to be free. You can tell. And so Alex is at one point they do some kind of like check with all the prisoners because they're gonna see which prisoner they want for the Ludovico technique. And Alex, the one guy says like, what? Oh crap! I'm gonna sneeze. What we need is larger prisons, more money. And then he says, "Oh, not a chance, my dear fellow. Like, the prisoners here enjoy their so-called punishment." And then Alex says, "You're absolutely right, sir." And then the chief guard says, "Shut your bloody hole!" And then he goes like, "Who says that?" And then Alex said, "Oh, I did, sir." And he said, "What crime did you commit?" And the chief guard says like, "He brutally murdered a woman, sir. In part of theft, 14 years, sir." And then he says like, "Excellent. He's enterprising, outgoing, young, bold, vicious. He'll do." And they basically pick Alex to be the person to test the Ludovico treatment on. And Alex is kind of is brought there, and you can kind of tell that the chief guard has a very big distaste for Alex as well, because of the fact of the way he looks at him while he's being set there to go. He gives him a nasty look. And anyways, so Alex is put there, and you can actually, in a way, say this is a man versus society in a way. And the reason why I say that is because basically what they do is they basically inject Alex with this drugs that basically makes him get sick. Whenever he thinks about anything related to sex or violence, he'll basically get extremely sick, and it will just. So basically, what they do is they inject him with that. But then this is probably the most famous scene in the film. They basically strap him to a chair in a straitjacket and put this thing on his head to have his eyelids basically kind of open so he cannot look away or close his eyelids. So they're basically showing films that depict violence and sex, and he gets extremely sick over the sight of it. And then the next day, Alex says, like, why am I getting sick at all this stuff? I never felt sick before. I used to feel like very opposite. I mean, doing it or watching it, I used to feel a real horror show. And then she says, like, you felt ill this afternoon because you're getting better. You see, when we're healthy, we respond to the presence of hate, the hateful of fear and nausea. You're becoming healthy. That's all. By this time tomorrow, you'll be healthier still. So they basically the next day, they show him more depictions they show him a concentration camp of like a Nazi concentration camp. And the music it's playing in the background happens to be the Ninth Symphony. And Alex starts freaking out, going like, stop it, no, it's a sin. And then they go like, what's all this about sin? He says, that using Ludwig van like that, he did no harm to anyone. Beethoven just wrote music. And then he says, like, are you referring to the background score? And he says, yes. And he says, you've heard Beethoven before? Yes. So you're keen on music? Yes. And so basically, not only did he get sick to violence and sex, he also got sick to when he hears Beethoven. And Alex is all like, it's not fair. I can't be. Why do I have to feel ill when I hear lovely, lovely Ludwig van? And then he says, like, it's a chance you're going to have to take, boy. And so at that point, Alex is very much regretting it. And so the next day, they're basically doing a test on him, and they're going to set him free as a free man. Now, anyway, so basically they take Alex, they put him in like some kind of place, and they're basically kind of trying to show him off, show how he responds to acts of sex and violence, which he used to enjoy. And they do lie. They do say he was not hypnotized or drugged, which they did. They did drug and hypnotize him. And in a way, the government and the people that he assaulted are in a way almost worse than Alex is, because Alex is actually believe it or not, one of the better characters in the film, even though he's portrayed as this very sick, perverted, evil person. But in a way, he is very sick and perverse and such, but he's very, very intelligent. He can be caring when he wants to. But it's just something he really, really enjoys, even though it's not a good hobby. It is, I suppose. Now, anyway, so they basically have this guy and this actor, and he basically kind of beats him up, and Alex has no way to defend himself because he basically gets sick whenever he thinks of sex or violence. And then they have this lady kind of show up who's naked, wearing nothing but panties, and she has blue hair, and Alex at first tries to go reach for her titties, and then he gets sick and basically just kind of crumbles down. And now, anyways, so Alex is set free. He goes back to his parents' home, only to find out that his parents have rented his home to some, like, this other guy who is like a lodger, and he's currently living with them, and so he cannot live with them. And also, not only that, but all his stuff was removed, and also I didn't mention he had a pet snake. His pet snake died while he was gone as well. And so basically, the guy who's kind of with them, he's being super rude to Alex, saying, like, I've heard what you've done. I mean, I've heard all the stuff I heard all the stuff you people have that I've been. I cannot talk today. Okay, so he says, like, we used to talk about what you'd done all night around the family table, and pretty shocking it was to listen to. It made me real sick. A lot of it did. And it's kind of hinted that the mother kind of just wants Alex back. She doesn't really say that, but it's kind of hinted by her the way she looks at him, kind of the movements she has, and the fact that she begins to cry when Alex has to leave. It's kind of hinted that she just wants Alex home. I mean, she knows he's a very messed up person, but he's still her son. And I guess it's kind of hinted the father does as well, even though the father is the one that says that Alex unfortunately cannot stay because they can't just kick him out like that. Now, so Alex is basically just left to wander wherever he needs to find somewhere else. Then he runs into the old guy who he beat up like at the beginning of the film, and he says, "Hey, can I have some money?" And then Alex gives him some money, and then he notices who Alex is, and then he gets a bunch of his other old friends, and they go and beat him up basically, and then they're stopped by two police officers, and the two police officers happen to be Dim and George, but in the novel it's Dim and Billy Boy, the guy from the rival gang. But either way, both of it happened. Anyways, so Dim and George, when they see it's Alex, they basically take him down to this like kind of farm place, and they basically Dim basically puts his head basically inside like a big kind of like pig pen filled with water, and George has like that kind of whatever police bat thing, and he's whacking him with it, and they don't kill him. But I'm assuming Dim probably wanted to, because George says, "Okay, that's enough," and then he says, "Oh, but he's still kicking. He needs to die." And then but George doesn't do that. He just kind of lets him out, and then they just kind of leave him there. And then Alex, it's in the pouring rain. Alex is running down to find somewhere to stay, and the place he happens to go to is the Ryder's house, who the guy he insulted and murdered, like raped his wife. And at this point, the guy has a bodyguard, and he's handicapped now. He cannot walk, and his wife has passed. And anyways, so he does not recognize Alex because of the fact that he wore a mask when he invaded his home. He was wearing a mask, so he did not recognize him. And one thing I think is really interesting is the fact that this guy is basically, he's been researching the Ludovico technique. He thinks what their people are doing is very, very wrong, and he almost sees Alex as like a victim, but he does not know it's the person who raped his wife and beat him up. So he's very happy that he's here. He gives him a place to stay. He gives him a bath. But then he hears him singing the song "Singing in the Rain," which is the song he sang when he was raping his wife and beating him up. And then he realizes it is Alex, and all the stuff he's been researching, all the stuff about trying to like get rid of the Ludovico technique, showing the government what they're doing is wrong. And he calls some people over, and they basically ask him questions, and they say like, and he says like, so I heard that not only are you get sick over sex and violence, you also get sick over music. And he says, yeah, that's probably something they didn't intend, but it's not all music. It's just the Ninth Symphony by Beethoven. And they basically say, are you suicidal? And he says, well, put it this way. I have a lot of doubt in myself. I don't see much in the future, and I feel like any second something terrible is going to happen to me. And then he faints into like a big pile of spaghetti next to him that they left next to him. I'm assuming they drugged him. It's with the wine. They gave him some wine. I'm assuming that's what drugged him. And they put him upstairs. And what's weird is that he was wearing a robe, but he's in like his clothes that he wore when he was first there, like a suit and tie. So I'm assuming they put him back in that. And they're basically blasting the Ninth Symphony downstairs. And he's upstairs, and they're basically in as an attempt to have him jump off the balcony to his death. And he does jump off the balcony, but he does not die. And he's put in a hospital. And at this point, Alex's like treatment has worn off. He's back to being an evil, sadistic person. And it's hinted by that is the fact that they try to go off and ask him some questions. They show him some images, and he says some very disturbing things when he sees them. So it's hinted that he's evil again. And then later, the guy, like his parents come. They say that they kind of want Alex to stay at their house, at their apartment again. In the novel, it says that the guy, the lodger, got into some crime and was arrested, and they're letting Alex back in the house. But at this point, I'm assuming they just kick him out because they want Alex back. And anyways, so basically the chief guard, the guy who kind of runs the company of the government that kind of put Alex on the treatment, he comes by apologizing, saying, "I'm very sorry this happened to you. We did not intend this. We didn't intend you any harm. We even arrested the guy, the writer or whatever." So it's hinted they arrested him. It kind of says that. And anyways, and at one point, then he says also, and he says they also agree to give him a good job, a good salary, somewhere to live, somewhere to eat. Some, I mean, just a job and everything. And they said that if we'll give you that if you happen to change the public's verdict on us. So because basically a lot of people were criticizing what the government did on his treatment, and we're saying it was inhuman and all that stuff. And Alex basically says, like, as an unmuddied lake, sir, as clear as an azure sky of deepest summer, you can rely on me, sir, which is basically hinting he lied. And then basically, then they play some music. They play the Ninth Symphony. They play like Beethoven's music, and as a gift, I guess. And then he basically fantasizes about him having sex, like with all these people, cheering him on. Now, anyways, yes, it's very weird, very trippy, very dirty film, but it's not just. The thing is, the reason why they betray Alex as an evil person, as evil as a person as he is kind of the point. Because one thing because why else would they do the treatment on him, I guess. But anyway, so the thing is that one thing this movie's really good at is the fact that even though you've seen Alex do all these evil things, you see him rape, murder, like attack people, harm people, but near the end of the film, you feel really bad for him. And the reason why is because he has no free will. He's basically just a walking puppet of the government, basically. And this movie is very political in a way. And even the priest even said, like, what they're doing is wrong. He has no moral choice. This is not good what they're doing. But Alex kind of wanted to be free anyway. But no, anyways. So now, another thing this movie's really good at is making Alex seem like the person you would actually like and not the people he harmed. It makes you have it makes you hate the people that he harmed, because they're just no better than he is. A lot of people in this dystopian future are very, very messed up, because either people in this dystopian future are either really into the arts or they're very, very into violence, which Alex is both. He's very into the arts because he really, really loves music, but he's also very into violence and sex, which is what pretty much almost everyone in this society is into, basically. Now, anyways, another thing this movie is very, very, like, I guess, very, very, this movie is also very, very referenced in popular culture, which should not matter, but it's very, very interesting and incredible what this movie has done to the entertainment industry, because this movie almost completely, like, reinvented how people even view cinema and film and entertainment in general. This movie has influenced not only films, it's influenced fashion, it's influenced music, it's influenced all different types of things. They have a whole entire Wikipedia article just on things people have referenced to this film. It's probably easily one of the most influential works ever produced. It's not hard to see why. This movie is incredible. It's a masterpiece. It's genius, in my opinion. Stanley Kubrick did a fantastic job on this, and Malcolm McDowell is probably, I can't even imagine another character playing Alex other than Malcolm McDowell. He did an incredible job, and he looks at Stanley Kubrick as a genius, and it's really not hard to see why. This movie, easily my favorite film of all time, and I think it has I think it has some of the best costumes, some of the best, like, visuals, in my opinion, and it's just a masterpiece in my eyes. And yeah, so I think it has one of the most unique plots as well. Now, anyways, that's kind of all I'll be talking about. I'm going to end the stream. All right, here we go. Bye, guys.